It sits on this edge, you guys. So it's actually a shelf sitter, and I'll show you in a second. It's like a puzzle heart, which we're using tarnished pearl, you guys. And it's been sitting for a little bit, so I'm going to get it wet. Pam already, and she's going to show you how to use the Harper letters. We've been I think the biggest thing for me, you can put them in the freezer. Absolutely, Cheryl, just for a couple minutes and they pop right out. So for me, I think the easiest thing for me is I use a lot of this is the baking cornstarch. I just use a lot of the cornstarch and they're popping right out for me. And when I put the cornstarch in, I use it generously. Sometimes I don't even flip it, but you can flip it a little bit. It doesn't seem to affect it, but I do use quite a bit. So if you don't have a freezer, just use ample cornstarch. I think that's what I say. Also, I have had a couple people in the past couple weeks, and they are struggling with it, and I think they're trying to be like too gentle. I mean, you really have to get it in there. I think you do. I think you have to really push the clay in there. Use my little card. And then we just flip it over. Like I said, if you don't have the freezer, flip it over, slowly roll it up. Sometimes I tap it a little, and they just pop right out for me. It pops out beautiful. I set it on whatever I'm going to glue it on.
Parchment paper would be good.
Or parchment paper, but I'll set it right where I want it so I kind of know, where I want it. You can even take your blue tape. You can line it up with blue tape. But I let it sit for a few minutes, just enough to get slightly hard, right? Just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just enough.
Crusty.
Yeah, just enough to get a little crusty. Then I glue it. I don't glue it immediately. So you can go, you can paint it while it's still really, really wet, like what Pam just did even. I just use an artist brush. So I use a soft brush. I don't use like anything that has a natural bristle in it. The Victoria, so this is gonna sit on the shelf. I have to make sure I'm still entering just like that. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a wash of letterpress gray. So I'm going darker. We'll try letterpress gray, but I might not get enough contrast.
All right, I grabbed all.
So I'm just gonna make a wash of letterpress gray. So I'm gonna just take my letterpress gray and water it down. So I don't have to, all right, so I don't have to mix up the whole thing. When you put your puddle of paint on there and spray it with water like that, I can just draw it out and make my wash that way and kind of control how much, because I want it to be kind of thin. And I want to make sure that these letters pop. So DIY paint has so much pigment in it that it works really well for this purpose.
And then do you always use a baby wipe when you do a wash?
I do. I don't know that everybody does. I do. I really just want the letters to pop, but I'm not going to just do that area. I think a lot of people, so I'm just going to pull that across. We talked about using crinoline too, because we think that would have been pretty. And that wood was so pretty underneath that if I pull back to some of that.
Yes, it almost had this color underneath it too, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty.
So I'm just going to dab this.
We seal before wash, right? We did not seal this before the wash.
I'm not getting enough depth there for me. So I'm going to go in just a little heavier with the letterpress gray. And I'm probably going to like
feather it out from here. So I'm almost going right into that pile of paint that I had. I'm going to take just a dry brush and just blend that a little bit together. I'm going to set that aside, go back into my wash, and do this side. I don't want to... And then this is Rose Tool.
Yes.
So here's why this is my favorite beginner stamp, or like if you only are going to have one stamp. So I like using this part. Let me make sure I'm on here. This is what I'm going to focus on today that's going to give me texture. But then you have flowers, roses on the Rose Tool stamp.
Yep.
You have a dragonfly, which is going in a totally different direction.
And some words.
And then you have verbiage that gives you some different texture too. So I'm thinking about perhaps doing this.
Throwing a little on there.
So a brayer is a necessity.
Yep.
You're not going to have a lot of success stamping with paint without a brayer because it's just going to go into the recesses of the stamp. So I'm going to get a decent coat on here that is not... So if you can really see this pop now that it's dry, and see how some of the letters, I wasn't careful with my brayer, but that's the look I was going for. I want it to look like that. When I get a fresh set of stamps, you take the back plastic off. Then you take just 220 sandpaper and just sand it in one direction so that the stamp has some tooth and it's not all smooth from coming off of whatever machine makes it. So then I cut it into sections on the heavy backing that it comes on. When I use the Rose Tool stamp, this is the part that I love. So I'm going to use that section right there.
Love it.
And I'm using Stone Gray ink.
Yes.
Look at that, you guys.
That's so pretty.
Look at it. Do you love it?
I love it.
Like, I so love this. So love it. I'm not sure I would do any more. I love the simplicity of it, but you have, let me just show
really
you.
Pretty like that.
Like if I were to do this part in here, see how you get a whole different look?
Well, that could be cute
But-
down there too, but
Or you could even bring in some wispy in that part. I do kind of like that. But then you have the smaller one too, which gives you a lot more options.
thanks.
I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to dry brush over Love.
So pretty.
So I'm taking just some of my white ink, paint, not white ink, and I'm dabbing most of it off, and I'm just going to drag over the top of my letters. It's going to make them look marbly, and it's going to make them pop.
Tie in with your white words a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah. Look at you go.
That's right.
Not just another pretty face, Pammy.
That's right. I love it. These look great.
So less is more, you guys. You're going to want to, you know, put a little bit on, stand back. This is what it looks like. Oh, I think I'm in love.
And it stands up all by its little self.
It does.
You think you're in love?
Stands up. Yep. Now I got it. Look at
There
that, you
go.
guys.
Get it on there.
That's
Get it.
how it
Come on.
stands.
Come on.